Hey guys, welcome to Thriving in Love podcast, the podcast that challenges the status quo so couples can thrive as their most authentic selves. Today on the pod, we have Michelle Panning. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. Michelle is an intimacy coach and she is the queen of all things masculine, feminine energy. Her Instagram is incredible tool and a resource for anyone that is trying to thrive in healthy relationships. Michelle, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I think this is going to be a really juicy conversation.
Yeah, same. I found you when I was starting my podcast and I was just doing some research on relationship content and your purpose. I'm going to let you say what your purpose is. I feel like you have a really incredible mission here on earth. What would you say your mission is in your own words?
At its core, like the reason I call myself an intimacy coach is because I want women to have intimacy with themselves first and foremost. So
Yes.
I would say it's to help women connect to themselves so they can experience real intimacy with men. That was like kind of how it started, or I'd say the main thing, but I also have queer women come to me. I've had men reach out. So it has evolved into something way bigger than I possibly thought it could be. But at its core, it's connecting women back to themselves. And then they can have the relationship that they want, the business that they want, the money that they want, like really anything that they want. But if you're not connected with yourself, like what the fuck do you have?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that because when I was trying to have like the success and the, impact that I felt like I was here to do, but I was completely disconnected from my body. And I felt like I was trying to put a band-aid on like a surface level problem. And then when I started to do that work, everything fell into place. It's kind of like shifting from that masculine, wounded energy of trying to go, 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 do it all to finally surrendering into just taking a fucking break from everything to go within and just listen to what our bodies are trying to tell us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I even right before this, I'm coming out with a course called Becoming Her, all about tapping into your feminine and living a feminine life, essentially. And I was writing about why women don't do that. And they think that, oh, I'm always in my masculine. I'm like, yeah, but not even a healthy masculine. You're in the wounded masculine of needing to control everything and being disconnected and constantly living in the mind. It's not even the healthy masculine of purpose, mission, goal-oriented, presence, silence, stillness, all of these things. So women go, oh, I really want to be feminine, but we also need to look at the healthy masculine as well. Yeah. And connecting to the body and really it's not about doing this pendulum swing. If you've been operating in your masculine for so long and go, 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 hustle, hustle. It's not about doing the pendulum swing of, okay, I'm going to live a feminine life. Now I'm going to do absolutely nothing. And I'm just going to lay in a hammock all day. And then they wonder why their fucking finances like go to shit and everything's not working. It's like, because you need the integration of both, but it's doing it in a healthy way.
When was the first time you started this work? What got you into it? What was your like come to Jesus moment to breaking free from your old life into this new life?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'll give the Cliff Notes version. And then if anyone wants to listen, they can go to the first episode of my podcast, which is called Unfuck Your Relationships. And the very first episode is like an hour of my story. But essentially, I think this was 2018. And I had been broken up with yet again. And I was crying on my kitchen floor after I had begged him to stay, even though I really I felt that piece of my intuition being like, this guy ain't it. But my attachment was like, I don't care. I need him. And he left and I was having this, as you said, come to Jesus moment where I went, am I part of the problem? Because up until that point, like I know it sounds ridiculous, but up until that point, it was them. It was the man. It was always everybody else's fault. I was very much in victim mindset of poor me. Life is against me. Life is happening to me. I don't know why these relationships keep happening. I'm perfect, obviously. And then I ended up finding this retreat in Thailand, this yoga and meditation retreat. And a week later, I was in Copenhagen. doing these workshops, and I learned about, it was funny, I was like reflecting recently on this time in my life where I learned about inner child work for the first time. And I was like, what the fuck is an inner child? Like, what do you mean? And I started doing that stuff, and I started, learning about female sexuality and the inner child work. And my therapist had given me the book Attached by Amir Levine, which I read on holiday. And I was like, what the fuck? There's an actual name for this cooked shit that I'm doing in my relationships. Like, oh, I have anxious attachment is what I thought. And then I realized later that I had anxious avoidant. But yeah, that's kind of
I do think that we all have a little bit of both. And I think it depends on the guy or like our partner.
100%, because when I was with someone who was avoidant, I would be anxious. And then as soon as they would be like, okay, cool, I want to commit, I'd be like, whoa, slow down.
Yeah.
This is all too much. So yeah, that's kind of like what started it for me. And the reason I do the work that I do was because I was on my own healing journey, as I think most coaches and mentors are, right? Like we teach this because it was only the best ones. We teach it because it was like our deepest wound, right?
Literally. Yeah.
And we moved through it. So that's kind of like where I started.
I love that. That's so fascinating. And what are the chances of like that yoga retreat coming into your life at that perfect time that you needed it and being that portal of transformation, I love to call it, is like that in between transition of like when you hit that rock bottom moment of there has to be another way because I'm repeating the same patterns over and over and I just want a different result. And then as soon as you make that commitment, even if it's just to yourself, the universe kicks into full gear to like put things into your path that can get you aligned to your true essence, your true like power of who you're meant to be on this planet. But the universe isn't going to do that until you make that commitment to yourself that you're going to make a change. I feel like.
Absolutely. And like the thing is that the pain was so bad in that moment. Whereas before it was like, this isn't this, like, yeah, these relationships suck, but it's not like that bad. And in that moment, it was like, the pain is so bad. I have no other option than to fucking change. And I went on Facebook to numb my feelings. Like now looking back, I'm like, I went on because I was like, I can't handle what's happening in my body. I need to escape this. And I saw this, like, I'm in this travel group and this girl had posted about this meditation, yoga and meditation retreat. And it had saved her from depression and all of these things. And I was like, fuck, I feel like I need to be there. And now I consider myself very connected to God, spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it. But at the time I was like, nah, that's a bunch of bullshit. But that was divine intervention. And I remember being in my car being like, what do I do? And it was like, go to the fucking retreat. And I was like,
it's literally right in front of your face. Like, just sign up.
Yeah.
I love that.
Legit.
And then when you decided to go to that retreat, were you like super into it right away? Did you have any hesitations of it? Or were you just like surrendering, open to anything?
A bit of both. There were hesitations in terms of like, I don't want to spend the money. And like, it was so cheap. It was like $4,000 for a month of being at this retreat. Like in a like I had a private pool. All my food was there. Like everything. It was insane. And I was like, oh, I don't want to spend that money. And, I've never really traveled by myself before. This is going to be so scary. What if I don't meet anyone? What if I don't know when I get off the plane? Like, what if there's no one there? Like all these like anxious thoughts. What if it doesn't work? All of these things. But then when I got there, I really just threw myself in. I was like, I'm going to every fucking yoga class. I'm going to the meditations. They'd have like daily workshops. And the workshops are really what I feel like actually changed me. Like oh my God, we did breath work. And that was the first time I'd ever experienced breath work. And that changed my life. I remember because you're breathing for 30 to 40 minutes. And then I remember just sobbing during that practice. And I literally felt like my rib cage was being like cracked open.
Wow.
And I remember like lying in integration, listening to Devi prayer, tears just rolling down my face. And I was not the type to cry in front of people. and tears would roll down my face. And I was like, oh my God, this is what love feels like. I love
Wow.
myself. And I had never actually experienced that for myself before. And I felt like my love was expanding over the entire universe. It was surreal. And like that was so transformative. And then there were other workshops where, oh my God, you had to walk around a room, and it's mixed gender as well. I worked in the sex industry for, I think I ended at like 11 years. So I had a lot
Wow.
of shit around men, a lot. And we had to walk around the room, and then they would say, stop. And whoever you stopped in front of, you then had to eye gaze with them. And I stopped in front of a man, started eye gazing with him, had a
Oh.
panic attack, and had to leave.
Yeah,
So
makes sense. Wow, that is intense. Well, sounds like it was an incredible retreat. And do you like when you have clients that come to you, do you feel like they come to you at that point of that rock bottom moment, or are they just like curious to have something different in their life?
I don't think curiosity is enough.
Yeah, I
I'm going to
agree.
say that. I don't think curiosity is enough. So, yes, sometimes, actually I'd say like the majority of the time, a lot of women are coming to me from deep pain. Usually they've gone through a breakup, or their marriage isn't working,
Hmm.
or they're just like, I've been single for 8 years and I still have no fucking idea who I am. I really want a partnership, but I have no idea how to let someone in. So like there is an element of pain. And then there's the opposite, where it's things are good and I want more, but it's more than a curiosity. It's a hunger.
Yeah,
It's a knowing of there's something so much bigger for me. And how do I go from good to extraordinary? And that's
yeah.
really fun as well, because it's like moving from pain to pleasure, and then pleasure to like ecstatic, you know?
That's so fascinating because for me, it was that moment that like I wanted more and I knew that there was more and like my marriage was fine and it was great, but there was that feeling. But once, I don't know if you know this, but my husband and I actually chose to live in our own apartments in New York when I went on my spiritual journey. And that cracked me open in like all my trauma, all my wounds came out. And I was like, hit that rock bottom pain moment of like, oh shit, the reason I'm having all of these blocks in my career, in my relationships, in my friendships, in my everything is because I've had all of these wounds that are hidden inside that I have been masking with my great relationship with my husband. But like every time he would piss me off, I'm like fury, angry, like I'm like nagging him, like horrible wife
Yep.
energy. But it's because I didn't even know that I had all these subconscious wounds until I lived in my own apartment. And then the universe was like, okay, I got you all to myself. Let's like open up the book of all of your past wounds.
Yeah. And for some people, I love that you shared that, because for some people that's what it's going to look like, right? The relationship is masking all of
Yeah.
your shit. And then it's once you're alone and you have that bit of stillness and silence, then it's like floodgates
Mm-hmm.
open. Whereas for me, I was the opposite, where when I was alone, I was like, I'm fucking Gucci. I'm sweet. And I would say,
Yeah.
like, every time I was single, I go, I think I've healed all my relationship stuff.
I love
And
when
then,
people say that. I'm like, just wait till you get into a relationship.
oh my God, girl. And then, like, I would get into a relationship and be like, triggered. Like, even my current relationship, it's a very healthy relationship. It's
Mm-hmm.
the healthiest I've been in by far. And we communicate pretty effectively most of the time.
Yeah.
And I still had so much shit come up for me. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
wait, why am I anxious? Why am I avoidant? Why is he avoidant? Like, why is this happening? And like, ultimately, we continue to lean in and come together, and all of these things. But
But isn't it magical to have that awareness now, though? Like, because you're in a healthy relationship, you're able to be consciously aware of the moments you get triggered and the moments you're avoidant, the moments you're anxious. Like, I don't think the purpose of healthy relationships is to have a blissful time all the time. Like, how do we grow from that? I think like
yeah,
growth and evolution is forever. And having the conscious awareness and the emotional intelligence to know how to do the work and when to do the work and when to process alone, when to process together, co-regulation, all the things. That is the purpose, I think, of
mm,
relationships is that co-regulation being committed to wanting to do the work together so both of you can thrive as individuals, as like complete separate souls on this planet with your own individual purpose and your mission. And then how can you help each other through that journey?
Absolutely, because I believe that there's three parties in a relationship. There's you, your partner, and then the relationship as a separate entity.
Love
right?
that.
And so there's, David Data speaks about the three levels of intimacy, right? Which is like basically me focused, right? What do I need? And then there's we, okay, what do we need? And then there's what does the relationship need, right? What does love require in this moment? And sometimes that means shutting the fuck up,
Yeah. Truly.
or kind of eating it or just copping it on the chin of like, okay, fine, whatever, because people end up arguing about the dumbest little shit. And like, I've done it. I think
Same.
we all have.
Yes.
And that's not to normalize it and to continue the behavior, but it's just like, we don't have to be perfect, but it's the ability to repair those fractures and move on and continue to lean in and grow and evolve and change and be devoted to the relationship, essentially.
Yeah, 100%. So I know you in your content, you've talked about how you used to be hyper independent. And then now that you're in a relationship with Drew, how did you come out of that? Because a lot of my clients are struggling with like, they're most likely avoidant because of the feminist culture these days of like, I don't need a man, I can do everything on my own. How do you soften that and like make sure you don't lose yourself at the same time and balance that connection?
It's a biggie. It's a biggie. The thing is, like, you're not going to change anything until you recognize what the payoff is. Right?
Ooh.
So it's like, oh, but I hate that I keep doing this. I hate that I always need to be in control. And it's like, okay, but you're getting off on it. So what are you getting from continuing to stay in that behavior, right? And for me, once I broke down everything, it came down to safety, right? I felt safe in being by myself, right? No one's going to look after me. I can't rely on anybody. People are always going to disappoint me, which with those beliefs, what do you think I continue to perpetuate, right?
Yeah,
Constant disappointment. No one could ever do anything right. So it's been a process of cultivating my own inner masculine, right? So we spoke about I'm so in my masculine. Yeah, but you're in a wounded masculine of needing to control everything and be domineering and critical and all of these things. So actually working on my own healthy, mature masculine where I could create safety for myself. I could validate my own feelings. And this isn't about, I think there's such a bullshit narrative in the personal development industry of like, you should be able to meet 100% of your needs all of the time. You shouldn't need anybody else to meet your needs. I'm like, well, that's not a relationship. Like, sometimes we need the other person of like, hey, can you give me some reassurance? Can you give me some validation? Right. But we need to be able to cultivate that ability within ourselves. So being able to be soft with myself when I would make a mistake, not berate myself for it. Right? If I was having, God forbid, a feeling, I would validate that feeling for myself rather than like, that's stupid. I shouldn't feel that. Or just keep going, just keep hustling, just keep working. So it's my own work first. And then sharing with Drew, my partner, around this is a thing for me and this is what I need. And can you lovingly call me forward when I'm acting like this? Right. And so a lot of women think that they have a lot of stories around, well, if I'm vulnerable, then it's weak. Or if I allow myself to receive, then I'm greedy or I'm selfish or
I shouldn't have to ask. He should just know and not wanting to do the communication that it takes for a healthy relationship.
Like, drop the fucking entitlement.
Yeah, for real.
I can't. Like, I am all about feminine energy and receiving, and I don't believe that every little thing needs to be communicated. But there's this overcorrection almost of my needs are important. You need to meet them and blah, 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 blah. And it's like this very childish energy. So we can go from, I don't have needs. I'm good. I can take care of myself, to then pendulum swing the complete opposite way. So really allowing yourself to take care of yourself in a soft, gentle, mature way, and then asking the same from your partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not demanding, but requesting. Something as simple as, oh, well, you know, him opening the door for you. He's aware you have arms. He knows you're more than capable. Oh, well, I don't want him to think I'm stupid. He knows you can open a door, babe. He knows.
Yeah.
But it's the act of like, I want to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to understand that like the patriarchy or like the system that we all are growing up in right now isn't just hurting the women, it is also hurting the men. Where like men don't remember how to be charismatic and nurturing and like just supportive on their own. I feel like as a society have told men, don't show your emotions, don't soften, be a man, go 50-50, and like don't let a woman walk all over you, or all these things. So like it really is a partnership that we need to kind of create that safe space for healing on both sides. So like we can't expect as women who are healing to go into a relationship and be like, well, I should just have a healed man who knows exactly what to do. It's such a beautiful give and take. Like, I don't know about you, like for my husband, there's no fucking rule book on how to be the perfect man for a woman who is awakening, who's healing, who's rising as a wild woman. The poor guy married me when I was 25 and I was this like weak little girl, and like I'm changing, I'm evolving, and he needs that extra space also, the way we need an emotional safe space. They need a little like, what's the word, grace to figure it out too. Like they're not going to be perfect right away, and so many people just want perfection, and when they don't get it, they're like, oh, I could just swipe and get someone else who's going to be better. It's like, no, like
which is just another way. It's another way to keep yourself safe, right? Because perfection is completely unattainable. 100%. So you're going to be consistently disappointed. So you're going to go, oh, he's fucked up. Okay, next. Yeah. Right? And then you're constantly going through this laundry list of men, and then you end up 48 years old, single, because you fucking turned down every good dude because he didn't have one of your 87 non-negotiables.
Yeah.
It's
so
ridiculous.
How did you balance that with Drew? Like, were there moments where do you ever question? Because I know I used to all the time of like, is this the right relationship for me or not? Especially when I started my healing journey. And then I realized that it's all a choice. You get to choose the things that you want to accept about your partner.
Girl, we are on the same frequency. Like everything that comes out of your mouth, I'm just like, yes, 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 yes.
Likewise.
I fully have had moments of like 5 non-negotiables, okay? Not 402. Because that is another way to cockblock yourself of like, oh, but he's only like 6 foot, he's not 6'7". Like, are you joking? You're 5'2".
I also think physical attributes should just not be on those lists, because sometimes we get what we need, not always get what we want. And like those physical things are the way that the universe tests us. Are we actually ready for true love? Because true love doesn't look at the physical attributes. It's all about the heart and soul.
Yeah. And I think there's duality in it, because yes, and also you get to want
you have to be physically attracted to them. Yeah,
you have to be like, there needs to be sexual attraction, but are you putting his height and the amount of money that he makes in your top 2 non-negotiables versus, I don't know, him being consistent or curious or kind or honest? And they're like, oh, I didn't think about those things.
Oh my gosh.
Hello. So
the most important things to make a relationship though.
And I'm like, I wonder why your relationships have not worked thus far, you know?
Yeah.
And that's no shade, because I was exactly the same. I was exactly the same. But I got super clear on the things that actually mattered to me in a relationship. And I got clear on that by looking at my past relationships. What was the shit that I used to complain about consistently? Oh, you're dishonest. You have no emotional intelligence. You can't communicate. You're not curious about me. You don't have any interest in my life. So I was like, okay, cool. These things are non-negotiables for me. These are important.
And then did you have a period where you had to like cultivate those things, those traits within you first so that you can attract and call in a partner with all of those traits?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's like the journey that I feel like so many women want to skip. And they're like, okay, I have the awareness and now I'm ready to like attract. And it's like, no, honey, there's like an entire embodiment and integration process that you're totally missing.
100%. 100%. Like, okay, so you want to call in a man who's honest, let's say, because that's a pretty universal value that everyone wants.
Right.
Well, where are you being dishonest?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not dishonest. Okay, so when your friend asks you, is everything okay? And you say, yep, when actually you're pissed off about something, you're being dishonest. When you look around at your life and you're like, wow, this isn't good enough, and you tell yourself that it is, that's being dishonest.
Wow.
Like, where are the places in your life where you're being dishonest? You want a man with integrity? Where are you out of integrity? You want a man who's curious? Where are you looking in black and white thinking and not being curious about people and not giving people the most generous interpretation or assumption? So that is the work, right? To develop your own masculine and your own feminine, because the relationship that you have between your internal masculine and feminine will always be mirrored to you, whether they're acting like your wounded masculine or they're acting like your wounded feminine. It's going to be mirrored in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Wait, how long have you and Drew been together?
About 1.5 years now.
And have you noticed, like, I'm sure you guys continue to do inner work even, from the beginning to now. Have you noticed that if you like unlock a new version or new level within you, do you see that reflected back to you in Drew in real time?
Yeah, it's not immediate, but what usually happens is it's like, this is where I see a lot of relationships die. Because one person starts to do the work and they're going up, 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 up. And the other person is resistant to that change. And so they stay the same. And the other person is trying to drag them like, come on, do the thing. You should read this book. You should go to this men's circle. You should follow this coach, whatever. And they're like, no, 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 fuck that, fuck that. And then they end up divorcing or breaking up or whatever it is. And something that I really love about Drew is this has been a source of contention because my need to be right and like do it my way, my Virgo-ness was like, no, 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 like this is the right way. And I had to just surrender that. But he's always doing his own growth work. It might not be the exact same growth work that I'm doing. It might not be the book that I'm reading or the coach that I'm following, but he is always contemplating. And so when I rise, he rises. When he rises, I rise. Like we have no choice because our commitment is to leaning in and being in full service to the full spectrum of love. We have our North Star for the relationship. It's kind of like, it's like what a coach would put in their Instagram bio. It's like our Instagram bio for our relationship.
What is
being
it?
committed. It's being committed and devoted to the full service and spectrum of love.
Wow.
Right?
I love that.
That encompasses sometimes you're going to say shit that I don't like. And it's coming from a place of love because we both are committed to, if you see me doing some cook shit in my life, or I'm out of integrity, or I'm doing some weird things, say it.
Call me out.
Don't just let me do it. Yeah.
And I love that because I have something that I call the 7 pillars of love. And like all the way on the bottom of it is respect. And I think what you're saying kind of really falls under that, where it's like, even if I hate what my husband's telling me, it's like I respect him. And even if I don't agree with him, it's like I respect him as a human enough to listen and not put my defenses up right away and say, oh, don't tell me what to do. I'm so evolved. I know exactly what I'm doing. I've been doing the work, like blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, babe, like you were just like really not kind to that person. And I'm like, thank you. Like, thank you so much for doing that. And like every time I get triggered by him now, I'm thankful because that trigger is revealing a subconscious thing within me that still needs to come out and be alchemized into light,
Girl, and this is the thing. This is why people say they want a conscious relationship, but don't actually get into one because they don't want this level of accountability and responsibility. Because it's one thing to say, oh, I really want a conscious relationship. Okay, well, how are you going to feel when he calls you out when you're doing some cook shit?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that. So my previous relationships, I would always date emotionally unavailable men and then complain about how emotionally unavailable they were.
Right.
And I realized, if we're going back to the payoff conversation, it was because I got to be the emotionally intelligent one. I got to be the emotionally available one. I got to be the one who was the better communicator. And then it wasn't until I met Drew and all of that was challenged and I had a full ego death around it, because in the beginning, he was actually better at all of those things than I was. And I was
Same
like,
with my husband.
wait, I don't like this.
Yep.
I do not like this. I know I asked for a conscious relationship, but I meant like someone who compliments me a lot and plans dates. Like that's more what I was looking for. Not someone who, like, I don't know, challenges me emotionally.
Totally.
So there's like a total payoff for it. So if you want a conscious relationship, you better be prepared to be accountable and responsible and respect that. Yeah, because I loved what you said about respect. That's one of our values. Because this is where a lot of relationships go down, is there's actually no respect for each other.
Exactly.
There's no respect for each other.
And that is the first question that I ask my clients whenever they come to me and they're like struggling with their marriage or their relationship. I'm like, well, do you have respect for this person? Because if you don't, you're never going to be able to come to an like common ground of being able to put your ego in the passenger seat and just listen to what your partner is saying. Because if you don't respect them, you're not going to respect the words that are coming out of their mouth.
And
so
listening is a skill, right? Most people, yeah, I listen. Okay, what'd they say?
I mean, I was guilty of that for so long.
Same.
I used to listen to respond all the time. And
that
the first time that we ever sat down for our first relationship check-in, he was talking and I was like defensive. And he's like, can we just put a fucking timer on the clock of 2 minutes so I can say what I want to say? Truly, though, it changed everything.
I love the, like, just masculine decisiveness in that of, okay, cool, I'm gonna actually set the container here, because the feminine has no containment, right? She's all about expression.
I was wounded.
Like, I have something to say.
Yeah, I mean, my throat chakra was completely imbalanced, so I had absolutely no awareness of how to put my defenses down and just receive someone else's words and just like listen and hold space for them to feel heard. Because isn't that our deepest wound, is we just want to be heard? And it's like, well, if you want to heal that wound, you have to learn how to do it for others and then become aware of when people aren't doing it and then hold their boundaries and say, and like my husband did, hold a boundary and be like, okay, like you're not listening to me.
Yeah, we, at our core, we all want to be heard. We want to be seen. We want to feel like the other person gets us. We want to feel understood, right? But we're not actually listening to each other. The other person's talking and you're thinking about your rebuttal and what you're going to say and just waiting for a tiny little pause in what they're saying. And then you're like, yeah, but, right? And can you hold someone's feedback without making it a personal attack on you? And full transparency, I don't always get this right? Like
Same.
My go-to reactivity response is defensiveness and withdrawal, right? Those are my go-to things of like, nah, and it's a process and I'm still working on it. I'm so much better than I used to be. Like that used to be multiple times a day. And it might be like once a month, Yeah. And I'm hoping to stretch that out even more to where that doesn't happen.
Right.
And that's a process, and I think people come in and they're like, cool, I'm doing a 6-week course. Like, will I be healed by the end of that? I'm like, bitch, you got 47 years of trauma. Like, it might take a little bit of time.
See, that's the thing about the Western society. People are so focused on the destination and don't realize that there's so much magic in the journey of beginning the process of awakening and seeing the signs and the synchronicities and the lessons that you're picking up along the journey, which for me, that's my favorite part. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just learned something new. Oh, I just put that into practice and I actually got through. Why do we
Yes.
make everything so destination focused, like goal focused? I don't know.
I mean, we live in this masculine society that
Mm,
is
of
all
course.
about get the thing, get the
Goal
thing,
oriented. Yep.
goal oriented, right? Just do the thing. And this is where, I did a podcast episode on how we're addicted to catharsis, right? Everyone
Mm,
wants this big, oh my God, I see everything differently now. And this
the
big
butterfly
aha
moment.
moment.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. We want butterflies when we meet someone. We want to go do plant medicine. So we have this breakthrough. We want to do an embodiment practice where we're like, feeling off our heads because it's been so intense. And none of those things are bad or wrong. They're beautiful. I've done all of them.
Same, yeah.
But we miss where growth actually happens, which
Mm,
is in a moment where you're in a disagreement with your husband or a partner or a friend or a boss or whoever, and normally you'd get defensive and you don't.
and we don't
That's the
celebrate that.
growth.
Yeah.
Exactly, because it's like, oh, well, that wasn't a big deal. And it's like, no. That's actually a huge deal. And those
Huge.
moments
Yeah.
compound over time to where you look back and in a year's time, you're like, I'm a completely different person. How'd that happen?
Yeah. Exactly. And it happens in those small moments. It's not like an overnight change. And I always try to, like, whenever I'm journaling, okay, let me look back a year ago and celebrate each of those moments, because we can get so hyper focused. Like, we make healing an Olympic sport these days where it's just do all the things so I can live my life. No, you live your life while you're healing, while you're doing the work. You don't actually heal until you start living your life. It happens in the moments that you're living.
Amen, girl. And it's another way that people put off their dreams. And that could be about a business,
Oh,
money,
interesting.
but in this context, relationships, right? Okay, well, I don't want to get into the dating game until I've healed.
Hmm.
Well, then get used to being single, because
Yeah.
that's going to be a long time. Because I promise you, you could do all this healing by yourself, and you could take years and go do plant medicines and tantra retreats and really go all in on yourself, and then get into a relationship and, oh, there it is. There's your childhood trauma. Like, it's just
Yeah.
part of it. So exactly, you heal as you live. And I think we can do a lot of healing through pleasure and play and joy and laughter. It doesn't have to be all like doom and gloom. And I teach shadow work, and a lot
Yeah.
of, for a lot of people, yes, it's like looking at their dark qualities of where you can be manipulative or a liar or, whatever it is, but also reclaiming the parts of you that are soft and intelligent and magnetic and all of these lighter qualities that we just pass off.
Yeah. I love that you said that there's the darkness of it and the lightness, and both of those should be paid attention to. Because a lot of that inner child healing, people think, oh, I'm healing my trauma, but they forget. I like to say that your relationships are going to not only trigger your wounds, but they're also going to bring up your childhood dreams that you forgot about. Because we get so caught up in trying to have the right job, trying to be as successful as possible. I need to be a millionaire before I'm 30, yada, yada, yada. And I realized that I had a childhood dream that I completely forgot about, which was to live in my own apartment in New York City and have my own business and do my own thing. And that's when we decided to live apart. And it wasn't like because I was healing my inner child, I was actually honoring my childhood dream.
Mm, mm,
And like, we
absolutely.
should do that. We should celebrate our inner child's joy. And who cares? Like, yeah, I actually had to lose a lot of money to do that because we split our finances completely and my entire savings drained. But it was worth it. It was so worth it.
I just love that you do that. Like, Drew and I have separate bedrooms, and
Oh,
it's funny because like the
yes.
shock on people's faces, like, oh my God, are you guys okay? Are you like on the
Oh,
brink
yeah.
of breaking up? I'm
Girl,
like,
my
no.
shit went viral. I had people messaging me saying I'm not allowed to say I'm married if I'm not living with my husband. I'm like a horrible wife for abandoning my husband and making him cook and clean for himself. And I was just like, guys,
How
he's a
dare you
functioning
have him
adult.
be an adult?
Oh my gosh. And then also, it's like everybody thinks he's going to cheat just because we don't live together. And it's like, why does everybody think that he's the only one that's going to cheat? Why does nobody think that, like, I'm capable of cheating?
And
Always the man.
also, why would you want to be in a marriage where the
Oh my
only
God.
way they're not going to cheat is because
Don't even
you're
get me
living with
started.
them and hovering over them and watching their every move?
The control that people want on someone else, and they don't realize it is a false sense of control. Because, like, hello, how many people cheat while literally living together, doing everything together? It happens all the time. And if you don't have, again, foundation of respect, stability, security, harmony, peace, joy, freedom, freedom should be in your relationship, meaning you give each other so much freedom because you trust that that person's not is going to have the proper boundaries to respect you, to give you the security and
Yes.
stability.
Yeah.
If you don't have those core things in your relationship, please do the work to figure out what is blocking you. And if it's that person who broke the trust, you don't have to spend the rest of your life with someone you don't trust. I don't care how much you love them. You don't have to. You get to choose your
Absolutely.
relationship.
And like, I don't believe that every couple should break up after infidelity. Like, it depends what it is, you know? And people are like,
Totally.
it's a hard and fast rule. And I'm like, I don't believe that it is a hard and fast rule. I love what Esther Perel says about trust, which I'm like paraphrasing, but she basically says, trust isn't the idea that we will never hurt each other. Trust is the idea that we will hurt each other, but we will always make the effort to repair. And I love that because it's like, yeah, we'll come back together. But, you know, moving past the cheating thing, I was at Tony Robbins a couple weekends ago in Sydney.
How was it?
Incredible. Oh my God.
I can't
it was
even imagine the magic
incredible.
in that room.
Oh, it was just next level. He's so cool. But he spoke about, you know, how certainty is most people's number one value. And you're going to have a very tough time in life if your number one value is certainty, because the only thing that is certain is change, right? And so most people don't want true love, right? Most people want a certain love. I want to be certain you're not going to leave me. I want to be certain you're not going to cheat on me. I want to be certain you'll never hurt me. You can't guarantee that.
100%.
You can't. You can make all the vows in the world, but like,
humans are human.
Abandon. Yeah. Humans are human, and like, you're going to be hurt. They're going to say something unintentionally. It'll hurt your feelings. They'll look at you the wrong way. They'll have the wrong tone, and it's like, oh gosh, what is this? So, do you want actual true love? Because I loved what you said about that your husband at 25 and was this like, you know, nice girl,
child,
and then now you're like, hi, I'm an awakened woman, and he's like, wait, what's happening? Because to be in a long-term relationship is to attend 1,000 funerals of that person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And are you going to just leave them in the casket, or are you going to help them be reborn and grow with them?
Yeah, I love that. And I guess that really goes to the infidelity too, where it's like humans can make mistakes and they can have moments of like, because of their wounds, because of their trauma, because of their abandonment wounds. I think that it's an opportunity to actually, it could be one of those lessons from the universe where you are asked to open your heart wider than you've ever had to open it before, to allow for that compassion, forgiveness, acceptance, grace. And it's like, it could really catapult your soul's evolution if you can be that open to forgive infidelity because your partner was wounded.
I'm just imagining the comments now being like, so you're condoning cheating, or like, you think that I should forgive him, or like all of these things. Like,
do you?
But like,
yeah,
exactly. Every relationship is different. And I'm talking about someone who fucked up one time, or it's not really an ongoing thing. Like, if your partner has cheated on you 17 different times and is like, oh, but this time's going to be different. Like,
No,
chances are
honey,
it's
move on.
not.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like we do make mistakes, and yeah, this is, you get to be angry, you get to be pissed,
100%.
there needs to be consequences and repercussions. Of course, you're not going to be just like as trusting as you were before. There's going to need to be attempts to repair from both parties.
Well,
But
I
if
think the
someone's
person
willing to
doing the
lean in,
action has to be willing to look at why did they do
yes,
that. I think that's the most
yes,
important thing. Like without that, I don't think you can actually forgive and move on. I think there needs to be, I think the person is owed a reason in order to be able to accept it.
mm-hmm. I was drunk is not a
No.
sufficient reason, you
No.
know, or it just happened. Like, that's not a reason. We're talking,
Like childhood
you know,
wounds that are coming out.
exactly. I can
Yeah.
see that, like, in this relationship, I haven't been speaking my needs. My needs have been
Mm-hmm.
unfulfilled, and that's not a you problem. This is,
Yeah.
I'm taking responsibility. I'm just sharing where I'm at. Is
Yeah.
that I haven't been asking for my needs to be met. And so rather than, you know, stepping up and having a conversation with you around it and seeing where we could go, I decided to do this instead. And I have regret around that. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to repair because I don't want this to happen again ever in the future.
Yeah. 100%. Again, not condoning infidelity, but there
Yeah.
are ways to move forward from that. Okay, so what would you say was the biggest turning point in your healing journey so that you felt ready to step into a healthy relationship?
Okay. So, like I said, I've been doing this since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only in late 2021 that I really shifted, maybe even early 2022. So, like early last year.
Wow.
Because so my last relationship, he's a nice enough guy. We were just not a fit, you know? And that was where I recognized, like, oh, I really get off on dating emotionally unavailable people because
Yeah.
I only have to lean in so far, right? But my past has been, I would never leave first. I would never leave a relationship first. So when I wanted to leave, I would start acting out. I would start acting like a brat. I would withdraw my energy. I would act like literally a psychopath to push them and drive them to break up with me. And then I could cry victim, that poor me, I always get broken up with.
Yeah.
So my last ex, that exact scenario happened and he broke up with me, and we did the back and forth thing for a while and got back together and ended and together and ended and all of these things. And I remember like having a conversation with God in, if you don't end this, I had to be the one to end this. If you don't end this, you will continue this cycle for the rest of your life. And there were so many
That
things
is
that I
so
had begged
powerful.
him to do, like go to therapy and work on this and work on that and da 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 da. He came because I had, I think, blocked him on social media or whatever, because I was like, I'm done. And he came to my house, handwritten note, all the things, all the trimmings,
Aw.
and said, I'm going to therapy. I've signed up for this Tantra course. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. All the things that I had asked.
Wow.
And I almost had an out of body experience of like, it's now. And I thanked him and said, I appreciate that you're doing that. And I'm so happy for you. I think that's going to be amazing for you. And no,
Wow.
I'm not continuing this. And we're done. And he tried to reach out a couple of times after that, never responded. And I met Drew a couple months later.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I
like
just
it was
had
like,
chills.
it was, I had to be the one to walk away. I had to be the one to take responsibility for my life versus doing all this weird, shadowy
Limbo, yeah.
stuff to push them away, and then they would break up with me, and then I could perpetuate the cycle of being hard done by versus no.
Yeah.
I'm taking the responsibility. But I didn't want to, I was so scared that I would feel regret or I'd never find someone else or whatever. And I was like, those are bullshit stories. Like, if this is as good as it gets, I don't want it.
I
I'd
freaking
rather be
agree.
single.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what I always say. Like, you don't need a man. If you want one, choose a freaking healthy guy who's going to honor you and respect you and treat you like an actual person that deserves to feel worthy for being you authentically and not try to change you, not try to manipulate you, not you try to manipulate them, not choose someone for their potential, choose someone for like who they are and inspire potential throughout your life together, but only if you truly think that you cannot inspire someone to change until you make that commitment to accept them fully for who they are in this moment. And that's like the biggest missing point that people have. And it's like, but like their husband changed and that person's guy changed. And yeah, why don't you look at what the partner was doing in order to cultivate that change? When you come at it from a place of not love, right? When you're not accepting someone fully as they are, that's not love. That's control, possessiveness. It's
Yeah.
that wounded queen energy, honestly. Oh, well, I'm so great. I can inspire them to change and I can fix. It's that fixer mindset.
Yeah. And here's the thing, you want a man to change? Lead the fucking way.
Yeah. Be the
Like, because
change.
people change. Here's the thing, right? Like, I totally laugh now looking at it because I was begging him to do
Yeah.
all these things. Please change, please change, please change. And then he's looking at me investing hundreds of thousands of dollars into my own growth and not changing at all. So he's
Yeah.
like, why would I do that when it honestly just seems like a waste of time, because you spend all this money and you're not embodying any of it. You're still being very rude, very defensive, aggressive. You're withdrawing your energy. You're doing protest behavior. I mean, they wouldn't have used all this language,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're still engaging in all of these wounded, activities
Yeah.
or wounded responses. So why would he want to go do the work when now it's like, oh, I do the work and I implement it and I
Yeah.
shift it. And then it's like, oh, I might actually want to do that too. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Inspire them. Don't like force and try to control their evolution. Amazing.
Exactly.
And then between those months of you broke up with this guy and you like completely ended it, and then what shifted in those months in between so that you could attract and call in Drew?
So I would love to sit here and say that I just did the inner work and then Drew came into my world and it was all smooth sailing. No, I had to say no to people over and over and over again. And this
Wow.
is what I say. If you want to heal an abandonment wound, get ready to be abandoned,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not going to heal it through meeting this secure man who is like, oh my God, I'm totally committed. No, because you're always going to still have that. So I hired a love coach. I spent like nearly $20,000 on working with a love coach as someone who
That's
basically is
coaching.
a love coach.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, I want support because I want someone to reflect my blind spots. I want someone to help me be accountable, because
Mm-hmm.
oxytocin is a bitch and
Yeah.
will
Dangerous.
make you blind to things.
Oh
Like,
man.
I'm like,
Those
but he's so
rose-colored
great.
glasses.
They're like, he's really not. So yeah, like I dated, I did take some time on my own to really grieve that relationship. And then once I felt like, okay, cool, I feel ready to date now, I was dating a lot and I dated different types of men, people that I was like really excited about, people that I was like, maybe. Like, I would go on a lot of first dates. And then when someone demonstrated a red flag to me, I would end it. And I had to do that repeatedly. And there was a guy right before Drew that I was seeing for like a month, 6 weeks or so. And I was so smitten. I was so excited about this guy. And all signs were yes. And then he turned around and was like, I can't do this. And I was like devastated.
Wow.
And in the past, I would have tried to convince him and tried to change him. And I think we did have one conversation. But ultimately, I was like, Michelle, it's the thing again. you need to be the one to end it. Like, stop trying to fight for someone who does not want to be here. And he's a great guy and lovely guy. I just don't think that, he was available for a relationship, which is fine. So yeah, I ended it. And then that week I went to ISTA, the retreat that I met Drew at. And we met in the first 5 minutes and we're like,
wow,
attached to the hip ever since.
I swear, I think the universe sends us tests to make sure that we have integrated our lessons. Like, truly.
Agreed.
And I think that guy coming into your life was to show you that you are obviously attracting the right person. So you are worthy. You have increased your self-worth. You've increased your self-love. You've increased your self-acceptance to be able to call in this like great guy. But have you integrated and embodied that lesson? It was that final test before calling in Drew. Yeah. That's so cool.
Because how crazy is this, right? Drew and I, that was the first time we met at this retreat. But unknowingly, him and I had been Facebook friends for years, had no idea who each other were. He dated my old business coach for like a few months, years ago.
That's wild. You guys were in each other's orbits.
He was a guest speaker in her mastermind that I was in, and I never went to that call and never watched the replay. So like we had been in each other's fields for years, but never actually connected. And because if we had connected anytime sooner, we would not be in a relationship.
You wouldn't be ready. Wow. Yeah. I literally had chills when you saw that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So I love all this information and this has been so valuable. I hope my listeners got tons of wisdom. Your self-awareness is impeccable. Your embodiment of everything is so cool to see. If you had one piece of advice for people who are so aware of everything, but can't seem to break those patterns of repeating and attracting the same kind of guy, what advice would you have?
So this is a phrase that I use in my containers a lot, which is clock it, own it, clean it up. Okay. So I see a lot where people go, I keep doing this and I can't control it. And I'm like, bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit. We need to remember the power of choice. Okay.
Yes.
You might be getting defensive and it is unconscious and it just happens. But as soon as you realize you're doing it, you now have choice. And you can choose to continue to be defensive because that's the familiar self. Or you can go, oh, I just clocked it. Hey, I can see that I just got really defensive right there. You own it. I'm sorry, can we start again? And you clean it up. And if you apply that to every single thing that you do, you will change. I promise you. And something, I don't know who said this, so I want to credit them, but I don't know who it is. But they said, you can't control your first thought, but you can control your second.
Yeah.
Right? So you decide what narrative you want to continue, what behaviors you want to continue. So when you say, oh, I just can't control it, you immediately absolve yourself of responsibility and your power.
Yeah.
Versus actually taking it back and being like, you know what? I have choice. And as soon as I realize that, I'm going to clock it, I'm going to own it, and I'm going to clean it up.
I love it. So simple. And I know not easy, but simple. And I love anything that is simple.
Yes,
great.
Absolutely.
And what do you have going on right now in your programs? Anything that you'd like to promote? The floor is yours.
Okay. I love this. So first is my podcast, which is the Unfuck Your Relationships podcast.
Which is incredible. Like, I feel like I'm in the living room with you and getting gold wisdom. You're so raw. You're so open and vulnerable. It's amazing.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Thank you so much. Whenever I get the reflection of people being like, I feel like you're just my best friend who actually calls me out on my shit. I'm like, that's exactly the vibe that I'm going for. So that makes me happy.
So good.
So yeah, Unfuck Your Relationships. That's the podcast. There's over 100 episodes on there. The next piece is my program all about feminine and living a feminine life, which we're going to be talking about pretty much everything that we spoke about today, like particularly in the beginning. So that's going to be coming out soon. That's called Becoming Her. I don't have a date for that exactly, but I'll give you the link when I have it.
Yeah,
And
I'll put it in the description.
Amazing. And then the next piece is my year-long group mentoring program, which is called the Connected Woman Experience. It is my baby. Like it's just the best. And it includes my signature program, the Connected Woman, which is about shadow work for your relationships, to go from feeling anxious and avoidant in your love life to feeling confident, worthy, and secure through a shadow work lens. And then we have fortnightly calls where we're doing hot seat coaching, live embodiment calls. There's a whole Telegram group. It's honestly the fucking tits. Like it's just
I mean, it sounds
insane.
amazing. I'm gonna like go sign up for that right now. Like, it sounds
Girl,
great.
it's so good. Would love to have you. So yeah, I'll give you all the links so you can pop that there. And then
amazing.
Follow me on Instagram at Michelle Panning.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for being here. Again, honored for your wisdom. And I hope you guys have a great day and follow Michelle and see what she's up to.